Hey everyone, if you've been following my African holiday vlogs, you'll know that part 6 was the last that we got up to, and I'd sort of said we'd maybe do some special incidents and things like that. Well, as you can see, I'm home. I'm not in Africa anymore, and I'm very sad about that. We've been back about a week, but I wanted to do up a bit of a summary because the trip home was a bit of a laugh, and then also we started to do some little bit of maths at the end there of what we actually did while we were away. So I thought I'd share that with you. So where we'd left off, we were at Serengeti under canvas, which was the Nan Beyond camp, and it was our last day and we had to go home, and it was all very, very sad. I didn't really want to go, but you know, I can't stay there forever, so away we went. And so we would, every time you drive, when you're in Africa at a lodge, even getting dropped off to the airport is a game drive. So off we went for our last game drive and started taking photos, and then wondered what would be the last photo, what was be the last animal that we took a photo of. So obviously there was wildebeest everywhere, so it could have been a wildebeest, which wasn't a problem. We're in Serengeti, it was the migration, and there was thousands of them there. But we started to see other animals. Saw heaps of hyena on that last day, something about 6 or 7 hyena, and impala, zebra, that kind of thing. We started taking photos just in case this was the last one. This was the last one. And as we were getting closer and closer, we saw a warthog and took a photo of that, because I thought, oh, that'd be really appropriate, because, you know, I've grown to love the little warthogs during my time in Africa. They now have to be one of my favourite looking animals, and yeah, I get a lot of pleasure when I see warthogs, and so that's what we got. And then I thought that was it, and then we got to just before the airport, and our guide Dennis spotted some dwarf mongoose, and there was a whole pile of them out on a termite mound. So we got a couple of shots of them, and that became the last animal that we saw on our African trip, dwarf mongoose, which I thought was quite cute, because we hadn't really seen any of those before for the entire trip, and they are just adorable looking animals. So here's some footage of the animals that we saw on our last game drive in Africa. So we're at Kilimanjaro Airport, and we got a couple of shots of the Land Cruiser that we were in and our guide Dennis. And then headed off. We had 7 flights to get home over a period of, I'm not too sure how long. We started at Thursday morning early in Africa time, and we weren't due to get home until Saturday afternoon, Adelaide time. But anyway, off we headed and said goodbyes and got our flight to from Kogatende. So we went from Kogatende Airport to a place called Serenera. I'm just going to check my notes on that. Serenera. So it's in the middle of the Serengeti, and it's a bit of it's another small airport, but it did have a decent kind of building with a coffee shop and some souvenirs, but then it also had a big tent set up like a marquee with seats under it so people could sit. There was a VIP lounge, but that was empty, so you know, we probably could have been in there, but well, we weren't VIPs. Anyway, Serenera was a funny old place. We were back on small planes, and what they do is they don't give you a normal boarding pass. They give you like it looks like a bookmark, but it's a thin bit of like balsa wood, and it's got the company name on it and a colour. You know, it'll be green. So ours was a green boarding pass, so we knew that off we were going, you know, on that flight. and but we didn't know which coast. I mean, it's not a normal airport. It's just everyone's just sitting out in the open, just watching stuff happening. All our bags go into groups, and so we were keeping an eye on our bags because that's how we'd know where we were going. So we knew we had a couple of hour wait. So we sat down, had a coffee, had a bit of a relax, took some photos, that kind of thing. And then as we were getting closer, we'd noticed planes coming in and out, and our bags had started to move towards another aeroplane. And we went, okay, well, we think that's where we're going. But there was no announcements. No one was saying anything. And so as a group, we all became wildebeest. We all just started moving towards the front area of the airport, and all just started milling about. And whilst we weren't making the wildebeest noises, they were saying, what do we think's going to happen? Are they going to announce us? What's going on? We don't know what's going on. Does anyone know what's going on? And there was all these rumblings going on, and we just started to move en masse towards an area. And we were thinking it's funny. It was a little bit worrying that we didn't know where we were going, but we sort of knew where the plane was because we'd seen our baggage go there. Then one of the people at the airport, they sort of lifted up a boarding pass looking thing and said, all right, follow me. But we didn't know what it was. And we thinking, do we follow him? We don't know. And then I noticed other people, and they had a different boarding pass to what we had. So we went, all right, it's not us. It's okay, not a problem. Yeah, and you start to get panicky because you don't want to miss your flight. This was the second of the 7 flights, and we were still a long way away from where we needed to be. So Zelda noticed out the corner of her eye a whole bunch of people on the other side also moving forward, but they looked like they were going towards our area and had very similar looking boarding passes. So we thought, oh shit, we'll follow them. Just go. Had no idea. So it was just a bizarre thing. It was the plane. It was, it was our call, and so off we went. But there really wasn't anything over a tannoy saying, hey, flight to Arusha, here we go. So it was just such a funny place. And then we were laughing because we're just thinking, oh look, we're just all wildebeest here. And then once one had gone, we all went. So we it was a big laugh. Anyway, so we got a bigger flight to Arusha. Now Arusha is a quite a large town in the north of Tanzania, and so we thought that, and it was a bigger plane. So we knew that the plane was going to Arusha, Kilimanjaro, and then on to Zanzibar. So there was people on there that were going to various areas. We figured we'd get to Arusha, we'd get off, we'd get to Arusha, we'd stay on the plane, we'd either drop people off or pick people up. Then we would go on to Kilimanjaro and get off, and then everyone else would go on to Zanzibar. But that's not what happened. So we land, and there's a little bit of a wait, and then the air hostess said, just wait, air steward, and it was okay. Then it was, okay, Arusha has to get off, and then people going to Kilimanjaro have to get off, and so we're like, okay, well that's us, so we'll get out of here. And then I think everyone then had to get off, and we're all standing just outside the airport. There's no what are those things called when you get on the plane and then to get to the terminal and you've got those sky thingies, whatever they were. There's none of them. You just get off the plane and you're on the tarmac. And so this guy was ticking off names, and then there was just us four, Zelda, Chris, Ali and I left, and he just turned around and we went, hey, what about us? And he turned around again and then went, oh, ain't you joking? What's your names? And he ticked us off, and we were like, what the hell? That's a really bad joke, because we were just going, we don't know what's going on. And it's at this moment that I really appreciate that when we were with &Beyond, whenever we'd turn up to an airport or anything like that, they were looking after us, and they would just grab us and take us to wherever we needed to go. And we were sort of on our own here without &Beyond, and it was so obvious how useless we were. So then this guy's having a good laugh at our expense. He's going, right, Kilimanjaro, come in here. And so anyone that was going to Kilimanjaro just had to follow him, and he's just yelling that out as he's walking towards the terminal building. Kilimanjaro, Kilimanjaro. So we're joking. That's now our code name, Kilimanjaro. And then again, this is an odd thing that happens. Our bags come off. We have to identify our bags. And we all got taken to the terminal and to this U-shaped area where we all got in, got our bags, put them through a conveyor belt, like an X-ray, and all our carry-on, watches, shoes off, all that rest of it, and then came back out again, out into the open. So it was just a U-shaped. I don't know why we were doing that with our bags, but anyway, so considering they'd already been on a flight from Serenera to Arusha, anyway, he then, our mate, who just called us Kilimanjaro the entire time, he then took us to the departure lounge of Arusha. And I've got some footage because it was, what a place. Anyway, here's Arusha Departure Lounge.
The Departure Lounge of Arusha Airport also doubles as a market, just in case you want some souvenirs.
So we're sitting in the departure lounge at Arusha, and then we went, well, I don't know if we're getting onto that same flight, the same plane that we were on before. But anyway, well, hopefully someone knows what's going on. Our mate comes, Kilimanjaro, and off we went. So we've gotten to a plane, and this is the smallest plane I've ever been on. There was only 6 passengers and the pilot and the co-pilot. This was a bumpy flight. We were near mountains, so Arusha has a mountain, quite a tall mountain near it, and then we knew Kilimanjaro. Now, it's only a 15-minute flight, but it did end up being about 20-25 because we were waiting for a 747 Ethiopian Airlines plane to land in Kilimanjaro, so we just had to wait for them. And I thought that was just so funny that this little 6-seater had to wait. And like you've got a 6-seater flying into this international airport along with a massive 747. Anyway, that's just, international airports in small towns in Africa, I suppose. Anyway, so we get to Kilimanjaro, and again, you just get off on the tarmac and you start walking towards the terminal building. And then they've come off with the trolley and the 6 bags, and they've started going towards the terminal building as well. We were all getting there at the same time, and we were just going to go grab our bags, but the guy wouldn't let us. There's obviously a process. So he said we had to go to the conveyor belt and get them off the conveyor belt. So we watched him go to the side of the building, because it's all glass, and the side of the building, put the bags, the 6 bags, on the conveyor belt, and then his job was done. Then we could grab the bags. And I did think that was quite ludicrous, that he could have just given us the bags. But anyway, because it's not like they went through any other process. They just, he just put them on a conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt came towards us. It was just such a laugh. And by this stage, we're just thinking, this is just a funny old process that we're going through that doesn't, and we had no idea. So it's like, oh yeah, this is what we got to do. So we're in Kilimanjaro for probably about 5 hours, and we knew that we were going to be on a fairly larger flight to Nairobi. So up until this point, our baggage allowance, and that was carry-on as well as check-in, was 15 kilos. Now that last flight from Arusha to Kilimanjaro, that meant that we didn't have any restrictions like that anymore, so we could start shopping. So we're really happy with that. There was a few things that we got in Kilimanjaro, but it was while we were in Kilimanjaro that we worked out that I think, by the time we leave Kilimanjaro, it'd be probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We started at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and technically we'd only been flying for maybe an hour and a half, if that. I don't even think it was that, maybe. So yeah, so 1.5 hour, 20 minutes and 20 minutes. That's all we'd been flying. And we were also further away from Nairobi where we needed to be than when we started. So when we started at Kogatente, if we'd have been able to get direct to Nairobi, that would have been good, but obviously we couldn't. We also worked out the Arusha flight to Kilimanjaro, which took 20 minutes and resulted in us doing all these, stupid things in the departure lounge. That Arusha and Kilimanjaro is only an hour and a half drive away. So it would have been nice to do the drive. But anyway, that's the vagaries of how we travelled. And so we were in Kilimanjaro for about 5 hours, and then we headed off to Nairobi to Joburg. And so we got into Johannesburg at about 1 o'clock in the morning, absolutely knackered at that stage, and then stayed at the Intercontinental. And I do want to start quoting Monty Python Life of Brian at this stage, but it's the Intercontinental at Johannesburg, and they were really lovely. So we got in there and it was just a late checkout, so we just slept, and then normal flight from Sydney back to Adelaide and then home again. So 7 flights and maybe 40 hours to get home. It was long, and so most of us, I think we all slept pretty much solid when we got home. But we started to look at some statistics, and we started to look at the statistics, I think, when we're hanging around Kilimanjaro, about what we've actually done. So I wanted to give you some of the stats that we had. So it was 33 days that we were on holidays for. We went to 6 countries. There were 7 camps or lodges that we stayed at, 8 hotels and 1 train. There was 3 touring companies that looked after us. Now, predominantly &Beyond looked after us in the first and last thirds and did a wonderful job. I'll talk about them later. Luxury Escapes handled the middle part where we went Cape Town train, Rovos train, and then Sabi Sands and Vic Falls. But a lot of what they contracted out to was a company called Wilderness, and they were brilliant as well. We'll talk about them later. We went on 29 game drives. 3 of them were long ones, so they went for at least 6 or 7 hours. And then there was one night one. We had 25 flights all up. So that includes the Adelaide to Sydney at the very start, Sydney to Adelaide at the end, and everyone in between, little, big, whatever. It included 2 chopper flights, transfers from camps. So 25 flights. So as someone who had, problems with flying, and I'd done the fear of flying course before I left, and one of the things to do is to do some exposure therapy where you try and get on flights. So 25 flights in this holiday was a perfect way to do that exposure therapy, and it was a great way to really help me cement all of the things that I've been taught. And I really want to thank Joe and Dave, who were the ones that did the course with me and got me through it. They were fantastic, gave me some great tips, and it really did help. I was nowhere near the dribbling mess that I normally am when I fly, and I can only know that it gets better. I'm still not perfect when I fly. I'd still like to be better, but I'm a hell of a lot better than I was, and it's just so good to know that it's not something that worries me now going forward. So 25 flights. We had 22 immigration desks where we had to get stamps and explain ourselves and all the rest of it. Sometimes with lovely people, sometimes with miserable people that obviously just wanted to go home or whatever. 22 immigration desks. Thousands of animals and birds. There's no way I can count even the species or genus of animals that we saw. It'd be too hard. We did see 1 black rhino. As I said earlier, we had 15 kilos of total weight. We had 7 guides and rangers during our time, and they all have a special place in my heart. And 5 trackers along the way that were just amazing at what they did. So that's just some of the statistics of the holiday that we went on. And Beyond as a company, I would recommend them to anyone. They looked after us so well. From the very moment that we said this is what we'd like to do and this is where we'd like to go, they curated a trip for us that met all of our requirements, and with great staff. They were just, in all of the camps, you really felt like you were coming home, and that you felt like you were part of the crowd, and it was a lovely feeling, a lovely, warm, comforting feeling. The staff that we had along the way in airports and things like that were, I didn't realise how much we loved having them, to just see through all of those things when you go to a foreign country and you're just not too sure. And even at the end there, we're just checking in with us and making sure everything goes okay. So the behind the scenes staff as well. So I can't recommend And Beyond enough. They did a great job. Luxury Escapes, I'm not too sure whether they're an Australian company or not, but they did a great job putting together a really good tour. And when they were contracting out to Wilderness again were just amazing. Picked us up when we needed to, took us to where we had to go, gave us some great tours of Cape Town and things like that. So really happy with Wilderness as well, and would recommend them. Big love to my family that I travelled with. He had to put up with me and me hogging the camera and taking lots of photos, and Zelda, Chris and Ali are just great people to travel with, so I'm looking forward to our next adventure. And again, like I said, I mean, we're coming to the end, but I've still got some things I want to show you. All the beautiful birds, some of the animals that haven't been here on the vlog before. As always, if you've got any questions or any comments or anything like that, feel free to put them down below. I'll try and answer them for you. Thanks for joining me though on my holiday. See ya.